It's Wednesday, September 27th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with a continuation two down day. We held the midpoint of the prior day. We took out the previous day's low. We reached a key target, which I'll get into in a minute. And you can see we end up with a bit of a hammer bar look. Even though it didn't close green, there was definitely a bounce off the key major target level, which we'll get into in a second, what that may mean. Again, it's not hard to see that we have a downtrend going here, and there's exhaustion risk with each and every new low. We had the kind of attempt to reverse on Monday. That was immediately met by continuation selling, as we discussed yesterday. And today we were ready to continue, to the downside if that's where price action led us. We have a key target here. Notice exactly where it hit. We'll get to that in a second. And then it bounced from there. So with this type of look, you're, similar to this green bar, you were thinking maybe you'd head up and broaden out a little bit in the short term above some recent highs. You can kind of visualize this bar making a two up to see if we kind of, because you can see here, this is the open of the week right here before our next target. So any two up day tomorrow begins to possibly, as we run to this next target, which is the high on Tuesday, it does turn if we can get there, it turns that weekly chart green, and we can end up with a hammer bar on the week as well. And that's going to be what it's going to take, to really turn this downtrend around. It's going to take some kind of weekly reversal. We'll see how this week closes. I'm actually leaving tomorrow out of town for a couple of days, so I'm not going to trade or update anything for the next couple of days. So I'll come back on the weekend and do a weekly, weekend update. But we'll find out if this bar has a reversal look to it and starts up into this. It would be a fair value gap into this area, but we still know we're likely going to close this month pretty strongly red, even if you do get a bit of a reversal here on the weekly chart. So that would mean, we're still looking for October to continue a little lower until we get through the midpoint of that month, and that's way up here. This is kind of the midpoint of the prior month. So we have a lot of room to maybe reverse but fail and then come down, but it might be a week or two before it does that. Anyway, I'm jumping way ahead in terms of what how this week's going to end up. If we fail and just stay red, we can continue lower to the next target. But getting to that target, remember, yesterday we hit this little target down here. We had the big red bar, and we were looking where we could possibly go. And I discussed how we had this fair value gap between the high of this bar and the low of that bar. That's why the next target was down there, and that's exactly where we hit before, reversing towards the end of the day a little bit. So, if we kind of hold this area, maybe there is a reversal here. If not, then we start looking towards lower targets, down below. But we'll get to that. And, I don't know how many red weeks in a row we might get, but we'll find that out more by the end of the week. So anyway, structure-wise today, like I said, we were, you have a little exhaustion risk with the two down day, but price immediately right out of the gates opened up here between the blue lines, the pre-market range. First bar just paused, second bar kind of paused, third bar broke down to the downside, and there was your once you broke to the downside, you're kind of expecting to hit the pre-market lows and yesterday's low because you had a red bar from yesterday. So anytime you see the red bar, you kind of expect that low to be tested. So that's why you had one push, two pushes down to take out that low. That's a logical pause area, or even if you want to just take a basic gain there was, within an hour, you had a pretty good trade to get out at those lows. Anyway, came up, and then, it's not surprising given we had this lower target here. Yeah, we pause in this area because that's a logical area where there's, stops to be hit, sells to buyers jump in, and you get a little pause and bounce. But eventually we didn't get anything that looked like a major bounce coming up to the midpoint of the first bar. Instead, we resumed lower on the two down, took out the lows, and at that point you had to push all the way down to that target. So if you really wanted to play to the targets, there was an opportunity, mostly the morning trade. And then again, when you hit that target, it's not surprising you get that two up there. What happens? Explosive move to the upside. Could you predict it? No, but you weren't really at this point looking for any more tests of this area since you reached the meet target. So where else is price going to go but up? So there was an opportunity if you really want to be aggressive here on a counter trend trade, in the afternoon to do that. That was just up to, with a tight stop. So that's sort of just the logic of it all. You move down enough to a target, and that's why it's a logical place to try to go long. Nothing in here at all, and really no reason to get long for most of these last few weeks, quite frankly. There was one day in here where there was a little something to try, but anyway. So another good trade buying puts today to the open. Very good trade all morning long. We will see if this becomes a reversal bar. If so, if we get a 2 up, look for reversals up here. So that could be buy signals tomorrow. As always, look at the pre-market range, look at the opening 15-minute bar, see how our price reacts to that. And if we break above that, then, be prepared for a possible, there is a pivot machine gun up here. There's gaps to fill. So who knows, if the market really wants to, maybe this is the only down move you're going to get out of this. We took out some lows, and maybe this starts a big reversal that comes all the way back up. I can't predict it. I still think that overall the monthly chart's going to turn red. You'll head lower into October, and as I discussed on some other recap videos, the quarterly chart is giving you kind of a shooter bar look, which means even if you kind of in the first little bit of October kind of consolidate a little bit, it looks like this kind of bar, if we close here, which it looks like we will, red, looks like likely lower as well. So I'm not, too keen on any big upside reversal back to the highs, but I think maybe you can get a reversal weekly bar, can head up into that gap, and then you'll need a good weekly failure bar to start a whole big downtrend that could head, for the next month or so. So anyway, we'll get into that later, but for now, another good day to the downside, a little reversal look. We'll see how things go tomorrow and how it ends the week, and then I'll do a recap on the weekend.